Hey everybody, Master Toby Milroy here again, publisher for Martial Arts World News Magazine and frequent host for Martial Arts Business Innovations, the show we're watching today. And I'd like to ask you a personal favor if you wouldn't mind. If you wouldn't mind, please help us spread the word, right? Help us help more people in the martial arts industry, help more school operators and more instructors teach better classes, grow their business, build their brands, build their reach into their community by helping us share and like and subscribe and hit the notification bell on this video, right? It really sort of helps goose the Facebook algorithm or the YouTube algorithm and helps more people like you discover this content, discover our videos, and discover the type of content that we provide. So thanks so much. I really appreciate that. So hit like and subscribe and hit that little notification bell. And I'd love to see you. I'd be happy to see you and excited to see you at an upcoming live event. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Speak soon.
Welcome to Martial Arts Industry Innovations, presented by Martial Arts World News Magazine. Here, you'll get the latest news and information about the martial arts industry and discover the latest tools, tactics, innovations, business systems, teaching strategies, and much more to help you grow your school, career, or martial arts business. You'll also hear from some of the most successful school owners, innovators, instructors, industry influencers, and thought leaders in the world, sharing proven strategies and solutions to take your martial arts school or business to new heights. Join our mission at Martial Arts World News Magazine to raise the standards of martial arts business professionalism throughout the world.
Welcome, everybody. Master Toby Milroy here again, and publisher for Martial Arts World News Magazine. And thanks so much for joining us today. We actually have a very special guest today I'd like to introduce right away. Grandmaster Lawrence Arthur began his martial arts career in somewhere around 1968 and specialized sort of in many different styles: karate, kung fu, kempo, Shotokan. We have a common ancestor in Shotokan then. Grandmaster Arthur. He's also the founder of the AFKA, the American Freestyle Karate Association, which also has a subcomponent of Super Kicks karate locations. He's a world champion, Hall of Famer, and also operates Black Belt Success Systems. And most recently is now also host of the not new-ish, I guess, AFKA Martial Arts Retreat in Lynchburg, Virginia. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. That's coming up July 19th through the 21st. So everybody help me welcome Grandmaster Lawrence Arthur. Thank you, sir, for taking the time today and chatting with us.
It's always my pleasure. Good to see you. Thank you.
I'm glad we finally got all the technical things worked out. It's kind of crazy trying to put these things together. So we have a lot to talk about today. So let's jump right in. Let's tease a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about your background, but also, some practical things that are happening in the industry today that school operators can go and consider, right now. But frame for us a little bit. You've got a special event coming up in Lynchburg in July. What's the overarching frame of that thing? It's open for schools of any type. Give me the logistics real quick.
Really, it's I am a martial arts student. I love this stuff, and I like to take the stuff that I always wanted to learn, the James Bond stuff, or I guess it's they don't call him James Bond anymore, but the stuff that we couldn't get in the dojo. So I try to do an event at least once a year in which we bring in outside instructors to enhance our martial arts training. So whether it be using a knife, not defensively but offensively with a karambit, or just activities that we don't get to do in the school. I think we pretty much beat the weapon systems to death where we taught every weapon, or did we? I don't know how many schools teach firearm training, but we're going to certainly do it with some airsoft. We're going to do some hatchet throwing, some axe throwing. We're going to do some things that we just don't do in the dojo, but yet it is martial related. So if it's and I'm looking for more. Don't get me wrong. We've got a program just for the kids, and they've got all kinds of things they get to do, activities that aren't not so much knife fighting, but they're going to have a lot of fun doing a lot of different activities at the same time the adults are doing there. So it's two different tracks going on at the same time. We're going to have the special forces combatives. We got some guys that are retired special forces that are they do things a little different than what a lot of our schools do. So they're going to be sharing some of their training with us. The Jedi sword training, which is, it's funny. We decided to do it for the kids, and I had so many adults said, "What about us? We want to do it too." So we kind of expanded that to do both tracks. Are going to do the Jedi training, karambit, the kabuta training, just things that we don't get every day in the dojo. Hopefully, people that are participating in it can go back and share it with their students and grow accordingly. So that's the gist of it.
Yeah. So there's, and by the way, just FYI, Grandmaster Arthur, I think your microphone might be close to where your fingers are. Yeah, it's perfect. If you're touching that bottom little piece there, I get a little feedback on you.
Okay.
I want to make sure everybody can hear you. Okay.
Gotcha.
So this is, your association is kind of putting this event on, but interestingly, it's open to schools of basically any style, right? So kind of walk me through who this might be a good fit for.
Well, it's for anybody. That's the whole point. If you're a martial artist, beginner or advanced, it's open and available to you. You just got to want to be a martial artist. I actually bring in instructors that are in other schools right here in our hometown. It's like, they're like, well, wait a minute, you're letting everybody learn from that guy. Oh yeah, that guy's got some good stuff. I want him to be part of this. So we're not acting like, well, this is closed and this is some kind of secret society. This is martial arts. We've all got something to add. And if what he's teaching is more what you want to learn, so more power to you. We're not American karate is just that. It's a blend of everything. As a matter of fact, we literally changed the name of our association from the American Freestyle Karate Association to the American Freestyle Kaizen Association. Kaizen being continuous improvement. We teach so much more than just karate nowadays. We're not limited to we're not limited to a style per se. We are martial artists, and that's what it is.
Yeah, very cool. A lot of like, you mentioned firearms training, like doing some airsoft, some simunitions type training, combatives. This is really kind of an interesting world, by the way. A lot of, obviously we know that we don't usually like teach the 7-year-olds and 8-year-olds. And, we try to keep that stuff kind of away from them and, make sure that they understand what's appropriate and what isn't. But a lot of instructors don't have an opportunity to train in that stuff very often. In fact,
right.
we it's a very long story, but I'll make it really tiny short. Really close to my house, there's a new location that has basically simulation, right? Like 3D simulation or, wraparound screen. It's like 270-degree screens. And a couple of our instructors, we took them over there and kind of showed them around the place. They haven't opened yet. And unfortunately, they were taking the approach of entertainment and teaching a lot of poor firearm safety practices, right? So I threw a flag immediately on it. But the stuff that you guys are describing up there is really sort of like congruent with, good firearm safety, but also giving folks some experience with this stuff, right? Some practical hands-on if they don't have a chance to do it every day.
Well, these guys they're teaching it they're special forces retired.
Yeah.
They're serious about what they do. They're not playing, and everybody, and they have all the equipment to train with, and it's just a lot of fun. I've had them before at other events of ours, and they were the biggest feedback I got from anybody was their program. So of course we were bringing them back.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. So very cool. So let's kind of wrap around this a little bit. For those who haven't had a chance to meet you yet, I always never want to assume that everybody knows everybody, right? Because the martial arts isn't really one big thing. It's a bunch of these little subdivisions, and oftentimes the subdivisions never overlap at all. I think you and I probably are one of the only ones that ever see each other at like a Korean style event or something, we're the only ones there, we don't see anybody else. So if you wouldn't mind, let's kind of go back to your origin story a little bit. You started in, 68 ish. What originally sparked your interest in the martial arts and got you on this path?
I was shocked into studying martial arts. My first instructor was a floor guard at the skating rink. You know, those guys, they skate around backwards and they kind of, and I was a big kid and he was a small man, and I was messing with him a little bit, I was just a big kid. And he said, I beat guys like you with my hands behind my back. And I just couldn't imagine what you could do with your hands behind your back. And I'd mess with him. It wasn't the first time I'd seen the guy. I was there every Saturday night, of course. And he said it to me several times. And that night when everything was letting out and I'm waiting outside for Mom to come by and pick me up and he got off work and he came out and I jumped at him and messed with him some more. And he again said, I beat guys like you with my hands behind my back. And I said, well, put your hands behind your back. So he did. And he turned sideways to me with his hands behind his back. I'll never forget it. And I thought, well, yeah, that's kind of unique. He put his hands behind his back, but he turned sideways. And I jumped at him. And when I did, he hit me in the chest with a side kick. I never saw it. I don't know what happened. I just know I was on the ground looking up, and I thought, I was so shocked. I jumped up and he put his guard up, and I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to fight. What did you do? I don't know what happened. I just know that something happened, and I was on the ground. I didn't know what had happened. And he said, well, he was a brown belt in karate, and you got to teach me that. You got to teach me that, right? And that he became my first instructor, Mike Davis, because he wasn't a teacher. I said, I don't have anywhere to teach. I said, you can teach at my house. I've got a basement. You can come and I'll pay you. I'll do whatever it takes. And I convinced my parents to allow that to happen. And that's how I got shocked I fell in love, deeply in love with it the first time I'd ever seen it. So, and then from there on out, I found out more about, there was more martial arts around. And, back then you didn't have commercial schools so much as you had a class at the church.
Yeah.
A
judo club maybe at the college or something, right? Yeah.
That's exactly right. And that's how I go to, you mentioned about going to events at Korean events. I go to events almost every weekend somewhere. They're all my buddies.
Yeah.
All my friends are there. I go. It's a social hour for me. I enjoy it.
As I started working with Harry and Friends, boy, my complete 180, much better than I could deliver by myself. Much better content.
Well, Harry is a godsend. Harry is like a virtual staff member.
The kids are just more excited. When it's time to do the mat chat, a lot of times it used to be verbal, but now we have the visual.
Right.
And they can relate to this guy.
We have been a long-time Harry and Friends customer with our little ninjas going on, we think, around 10 years now.
How many schools do you guys have that are using Harry and Friends? 5 schools. Excellent. And how do the kids react? How do the parents react? They love it.
Harry is a big part of our We Warriors program. Kids love him. They will do things that he says that won't do if we tell them to, and they definitely won't do it if their parents tell them to. Makes the parents a little jealous, but they love him too. Check it out, guys. You got to do Harry and Friends.
Okay, everybody. Where is Harry today? It's great. At Martial Arts.
Check out the latest issue of Martial Arts World News Magazine, the industry trade journal for martial arts school owners and instructors at mawnews.com. And now, back to our show.
Yeah, so that got you into the dojo, right, so to speak. That kind of got you into the school.
Right.
Right. So we'll skip a little bit, but so then where then, or how then did you sort of transition into teaching? How did this happen?
Well, it was, many of you may know the name Jimmy Horsley. Jimmy and I grew up together, and we went to the same school together, and our instructor had just got off the boat, and he was in our high school with us, and he was going to teach Korean karate, for lack of a better term, at the time. And half the time he wouldn't show up. So Jimmy, who was studying and I was studying, he'd take half the group and I'd take half the group. And we'd have a little contest to see who could teach the best stuff. And we became instructors by default. And after training for, I guess I'd been training a couple of years there, and I saw an ad in a black belt magazine, and it was earn $50,000 a year teaching martial arts. I think that was in 72 or so. And I thought that was a lot of money. So you had to go to Omaha, Nebraska to check it out. It was the beginning of the ATA.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got a ticket. My buddy took me to the airport in another town, about 100 miles away, on the back of a Harley Davidson with my suitcase. And I was 18 years old. And I flew out to Omaha, and I met Grandmaster Reed and Grandmaster Lee. And they gave me a 13-page script and said, you got to memorize this, and you got to learn to do the business, and go ye into the world and teach martial arts. And that was my interest. Again, it was a shock. I learned the business because they had started doing it. Years later, decades later, right before Grandmaster Lee Reed had passed away, I saw him at the World Championships and in Little Rock, and I told him about that story, and he said, "So you're the other guy." I was like, "What other guy?" He said, and then Grandmaster Bill Clark said, he says, "Joe Corley answered that ad, and we knew there was one other guy, and that was me." So Joe Corley and I answered that ad. He said it wasn't a very good ad because it didn't work, but it worked for me.
That's hysterical. And this is 72?
What's that?
This is 72-ish?
Yeah.
So that was literally H.U. Lee. That was Hang Lee, and he
exactly
couldn't
right.
have been in the United States for very long.
No,
right?
He was a 6th-degree black belt then when I first met him.
Unbelievable. Yeah. For those that don't know, the ATA is the largest single style organization in the country, and this would have been the very genesis, like the very origin, in that first school they opened in Omaha. So that's very
right.
Cool.
I went
Very
there.
interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that got you teaching and kind of thinking about business anyway, right? You were thinking about operations and stuff like that.
Oh, no, I came back, opened up a school. They gave me a provisional black belt. I was a brown belt when I went out. They gave me a provisional black belt, and I've always been a student, and I've been studying ever since, and I always will be, I guess.
Wow. How interesting is that? How cool is that?
Used to be we made fun of people that said they were a 10th degree black belt, let alone have a 10th degree in multiple systems. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, right. Takes you forever. Yeah. Well, I'm a 10th degree black belt in 3 different systems now. So we make fun of me.
Yeah. Been there. It's Jeff Smith, one of Jeff Smith's favorite, our mutual friend, Jeff Smith, one of his favorite, one of my favorite Jeff Smithisms is anytime you point your finger at someone, there's 3 more pointing back at you, right? So everybody we used to make fun of are now, wait a minute, maybe they knew something we didn't know. Maybe there's more to this, right?
Yeah.
Pretty interesting. Okay, well, interesting. So, when we talked, I think for all of our audience, so then let's fast forward. So now we're, Grandmaster Lawrence Arthur, and we've got a martial arts association with dozens of schools, with many schools all over the place. We've got many instructors teaching many, many, many students, and we have an organization that sort of parents that. When we talked about getting together today and talking about what you're up to, what the organization is doing, and the event that you're having and stuff like that. You sort of replied, well, really it's only about these 4 things. Why not just talk about that? And I think for school operators, this gets very complicated, but it is not complicated. It's about enrollments, renewals, retention, and quality, right? That's it. That's all there is. Everything else is ephemera, right? So help us with this. Start us with, if I'm a school operator and I'm a little overwhelmed, how do I dissect the business? And then let's chip into each topic.
Well, it's all about creating a student experience. Their experience our goal is to create a student that becomes an instructor. That's our goal. And we found that there's 8 phases that the student goes through. And the first one, of course, is recruitment. Well, you've got to get that student. And whether you get it with a VIP or however they come in, regardless, the first part and the most important part is rapport building, finding out about them, discovering why they want martial arts. What's their problem? Everybody has it, whether it be fitness or self-defense or fun or whatever. We can provide the solution, but one size doesn't fit all. We got to find out what their problem is. So the first part of recruiting or finding a student is discovering what the problem is. And that's done by rapport building. Now, I'm not going to go into scripts with you on things you have to say, but we've got to recognize that that's the first part. And then when they do come in or they take that first introductory lesson, whether it be in a classroom or a private setting or whatever, that's where we are, in essence, admitting them into our school. I know we think in terms of selling, but I like to think in terms of buying. We're buying them. We're allowing them to purchase a membership in our school. We're allowing it, not trying to sell it. So it's part of their experience. I don't enroll them thinking, okay, now I've got you as a student. I enroll them thinking, okay, now I've got a potential instructor. I start thinking about them as an instructor from the time they very start. So I've got to introduce them to everybody. They get introduced when they come into our school and they enroll. We're going to give everybody a chance to meet them and introduce them and shake their hand. And I'm going to start building that community so that person, kind of like going to church. The book, The Purpose-Driven Church, is a great book on how to run a martial arts school. It's you build a community. You put their name on their white belt. You make them feel like this is going to work for me because it seems like everybody knows my name. It works that way. You always like to go to the restaurant that when you walk in the door, they go, hey, how you doing? They know you. Same way in a martial arts school. So the sooner you can make that happen, the more likely they are to enroll and be part of your program. That brings us to the next part. You got to teach them in those classes. Well, classes have to be a time of building their confidence as quickly as possible. So how do we build their confidence? Number one, we tell them how good they are. We tell them, you're already pretty good at this stuff. You're having fun with it. I'd like to see you be ready for your yellow belt or whatever level their first level is at our next graduation. Wait. Now, come on, that's in 3 weeks. Oh, it's in 2 weeks. You can't possibly get them ready for yellow belt. Well, I can, because I got 24 belts I'm going to put them through. And that yellow belt is not going to be competing on the national circuit with the novice division against kids that have been in karate for 2 years. They're a beginner. I want them to get confidence. I want them to feel good about what they're doing. I want them to see that I can do this stuff and I'm going to be pretty good at it. Now, we do make sure they get their success kit, their basic package, their equipment, they're not be wearing safety gear because that's not what they're going to be doing at that level. But they're going to get a T-shirt. They're going to get some stuff that makes them feel like they're part of the team to start with. And I'm going to get them up and ready for testing right away. Maybe it means I need to give them a private lesson or two. So what? I'm teaching them private lessons are a great way to accelerate your training. Private lessons are a great way for you to make an investment in your training. A lot of our schools teach 20, 30 private lessons a week. So is it good? Yes. It's good pay. At the same time, it's a great training tool to create instructors with, that they learn to teach privately and learn to hone their skills as an instructor. And the more familiar I can get them with, we assume that people know how to act when they come into our school. Really?
Yeah.
It's like, give me 10 burpees. What's a burpee?
Yeah.
I don't even know what it is. I don't know. And especially if you're using Japanese terminology. You got me lost then. I don't know I don't use Japanese terminology. Some schools do. But I don't care what kind of terminology you use, they don't know it. They got to learn the vocabulary. So I like to tell my instructors to teach less, expect more. You haven't got to spend, I think the ego gets in the way. I got to teach them this and that and kicks and punches and blocks and stances. And that's a beginner class. No, you teach so much, they learn nothing. Teach less. Teach the structure, how to line up, how to get on your spot, how to say yes, sir, and no, sir, how to be loud, how to answer, how to stand up when you answer, how to take a knee when you're listening. Structure is the most important thing you can teach in a basic class. Then they get comfortable. They get familiar with it. They're buddies. They know each other's name. When they're working together, they call each other by name. That familiarity is what they want. There again, like going to church. Everybody knows your name there. You become familiar with it. Now, accomplishment is another part of that. They have to feel like, well, the parents got to feel like they're getting some dividends for their investment. The students need to feel like, I'm getting good at this. Their confidence got to soar. Well, how do you do that? Whether it be stickers, whether it be stars that they're achieving, whether it be they get stars for doing citizenship material, things they do at home. In other words, they get behavior changes that are going on. Patches, they go to the graduation. They get to the point where they feel like, hey, I'm moving up in this stuff. This is pretty good. Their confidence soars, which takes them to the next level. They want more.
Yeah.
They want to be in the leadership program, the black belt program, the whatever you want to call it. It doesn't make any difference. It's the upgrade program. In other words, they want to take ownership of their training. They want to move into the next level. They get the special uniform, the special belt, the special equipment. They get to go to special seminars. They get to do more stuff. Now, if you're teaching all that stuff and giving them all that stuff as a beginner, number one, teaching them too much. Number two, there's no reason for them to move up. They can't keep up with what you're already doing.
Yeah.
So you teach less, expect more, and give them the feeling of accomplishment, the feeling that they've made the grade. As I said, be the buyer. You got to make the grade before you can go into that.
Hey son, let's do something different this weekend. How about we take in a museum?
Yeah, that sounds good.
We could learn about the samurai. Yeah! Or how about the Hawaiian Lua warriors? Ooh, the mighty sumo. Hey, how about the Martial Arts History Museum? That way we can learn about them all.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Do you feel like you're getting crushed under the tremendous weight of managing your martial arts school? Crawl out from beneath the burden and reach your potential. Lighten the load and let Atlas Martial Arts Software do the heavy lifting. Visit tryatlassoftware.com to see for yourself and get 7 free gifts valued at over $400.
Stay informed while on the go with daily news in the Martial Arts World News Magazine mobile app for Apple and Android devices. Find us in your app store. And now, back to our show.
There are so many stories that come to mind, but I was just doing some staff training here last week. We have some new team members, and I was just bringing them on board. And we have a lot of things that we need them to experience before they can get familiar with everything. And one of the things that occurred to me with what you're describing is, I remember the story about the U.S. Army bringing Tony Robbins in to help them with their pistol training program, right? Okay. And their original program, I'm going to get these numbers wrong, but you'll get the ratios right. At the time, the Army was training like, they have like 3 levels, right? I'm getting a little bit of microphone noise there on you, sir, if you can see. They had like 3 levels of certification or whatever, and it's marksman, and then sharpshooter is the top one, and they were only certifying like 12% to sharpshooter or something like that, and then it took them like 6 or 8 weeks to get 12% of the people to sharpshooter. And they brought Tony in, and Tony looked at the system and saw what they were doing and tried to do some analysis, some sort of psychological analysis, basically on human performance analysis on what was going on. And what he found was their process was, give the guy the gun, essentially, put the target downrange, and say, go at it, essentially. Yeah, they teach him some stuff, but, go. And then, you're now firing these bullets off, and you have no idea where they're going, and you're trying to fix it, and you're trying to follow the procedure, and you're trying to do all this stuff. So what he did was the opposite. What he did was he came in and basically flipped the program on its head. And what he did was took all the bullets out of the guns and had them stand in the firing line and practice the process 100 times, right? get it, motor memory, right? So there's no like conscious thought anymore. And then the next step was they put the target 5 feet in front of the guy, right? And motor memory, bam, hole right through the middle. So 100 rounds of that, or 200 rounds of that, or 300 rounds of that, or whatever it was, 2 or 3 days of this. And then you move it back 5 yards, and then back 5 yards, and then back 5 yards. And the very simple discovery that the U.S. Army made, that all of us now know because of what you're describing, you cannot build confidence and competence on failure. You can only build confidence and competence on the experience of successes. They've got to be real successes, right? It's not false. They've got to be real successes. But putting the target 5 feet in front of the soldier was the thing that got them to reinforce the correct habits, not fish around trying to figure out what's wrong, right?
Right.
So they compressed the 6-week or 8-week program down, let's say it was 3 months, I don't remember, down to like 4 weeks or 3 weeks, and they were now certifying like 60% to sharpshooter rather than 12% or 18% or whatever it was. So I think what you're describing, if I'm a school operator, I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, I can't possibly, teach less things to the white belts. Well, you can if you figure out how to chunk it appropriately. What is an appropriate chunk for a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old white belt? It might be a different chunk for a 19-year-old white belt or something like that, but what is an appropriate chunk, right? So that was all I wanted to just underscore is I think what you're describing isn't about, diminishing my quality standards. It's about making appropriate chunks where people can experience success early on and build on that, right?
Right.
I think anybody can make white belts so damn hard they all drop out, right? The jiu-jitsu guys have figured out how to do that, right? But they're learning, they're coming along, So anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think that's worth underscoring. It's an important component that, I want to make sure we hear this correctly. We're not hearing, hey, lower your black belt standards. It's no. What are appropriate white belt standards, for a 7-year-old, right? Something like this. Right. So we're at teach them. Please continue.
Well, that's just it. That we end up having white belt flight. They quit as soon as they get started because several things. One, you didn't find out what the problem was. You didn't address the problem. You said one size fits all. You go in the classroom and you stick with it long enough, you're going to get everything we have. And that's just not it. I mean, and not only that, you ask most people what business they're in, and they give you lots of reasons, lots of things. But in reality, we're in the business of sales and marketing, of martial arts benefits and products and services. That's really the business.
Yeah.
And most people don't want to they don't want to admit it, or they don't want to recognize what the business is. Marketing is communication. That's what it is. Being able to communicate the benefits of what we do. And each of the phases that the person goes through, the 8 phases, they've got to be communicated with correctly. And I say correctly as in every which way you can. The first way being in person. If they are a beginner, or they're coming in for their first visit, what could you do? When I check into the Hampton Inn, they always give me cookies and water. I like that. They get a free water. Suppose you gave everybody who came to the class for their first one, you hand them a free bottle of water. Instead of saying, give me $1, let me get it out of the refrigerator for you. You just give them something. You tell them, I'm going to give you a private lesson on your first visit so we can find out exactly what it is you want to learn and accomplish from your training. I'm going to do a monthly intro with everybody who's just enrolled to make sure they understand what's going on. I'm going to do as much stuff as I can do with you personally because I got to communicate those values to you. And then I'm going to, if you're not doing emails with every student every week, when are you going to, welcome to the 21st century. They've got to be added into your normal email list that goes out. But more importantly, you got to pre-frame them. What's going to happen in their next class? For that matter, what happens in their first 5 classes?
Yeah.
What's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And every class, they get another email. And they're going to get a phone call. I'm going to confirm each one of those classes. I'm going to call them and say, hey, got you scheduled for tonight. Tonight, make sure you come. We're going to be working on those grab techniques. We're going to be working on that. We're going to show them, I like to say it, I got a brand new girlfriend. and I got to treat her extra special. She ain't gonna fall in love with me. I gotta call her. I gotta send her love letters. I gotta send her when she comes to class. I'm gonna make sure there's a picture taken. Maybe it's with the instructor. Maybe it's with them in the class taking a workout. I'm gonna print it out on a postcard and I'm gonna mail it to them. Great job in class. Why? Because I got a brand new girlfriend. I got to treat her extra special. I'm going to send her a video. Maybe it's a video of me talking to her about, hey, I noticed you did so-and-so and so-and-so real good. Or maybe it's a video of her actually performing, and I'm going to send it to them and say, you were a rock star in class today. You know, those are the little things that you make them fall in love with you because they think they really do care about me. And if all this happens initially, suppose it happened at every step of it.
Yeah.
You followed every one. You think, well, that's a lot of busy work. Well, it's a great training program for your CIT. It's a great training program to get people who want to help you, show them how they can help you, as opposed to saying, walk around the room with your arms crossed, correcting people. Don't. You know, how about they came in for their first class? Maybe they signed up, maybe they didn't. Either way, mail them a free t-shirt. Put it in the mail to them. Thanks for coming in. We appreciate you. You know, t-shirts printed, $4 a piece. You know, what's that lead worth to you? You know, that person getting that something that's in the mail that they didn't expect. And maybe it's a patch, maybe it's I don't know. It doesn't make any difference. As long as you're giving them something that's unexpected, that they go, wow, that was added bonus to that. When you treat people extra special, they can't leave you. And more importantly, they move into a raving fan. They move into that, I got to tell my buddies about this place. I got to bring somebody with me. They become your referral machine because they know that when I walk into this restaurant, I bring all my friends and come to town to my favorite restaurant because I'm somebody there.
Right.
I walk in, Mr. Arthur, good to see you. You know, they treat us extra special. That's the way you want your students to treat you, extra special, because you treat them with the same difference.
This has been a Martial Arts Industry Innovations production, presented by Martial Arts World News Magazine.